Okay, great. I'll jump right in. So the first points I wanted to make have to do with the terms corporate stupidity and mind bugs. So corporate stupidity itself is certainly it's a playful term, but it's about a serious issue we've all seen and we've all experienced. It's an issue why otherwise intelligent people can unknowingly make stupid, value-destroying, or maybe even personally harmful decisions when they simply could have known better. So when I use the term corporate stupidity, I'm not referring to people, but rather to the decisions that people make. Now, as part of my research on stupidity, Kevin, I asked a number of people what they thought the definition of stupidity might be. And if I asked 100 people, I got 150 answers. So I'm not going to try to ask you this, but I came to appreciate that a lot of people talked about stupidity versus intelligence. And I came to appreciate both from my research and as well from my experience in the corporate world that stupidity is not simply the opposite of intelligence. It's really a force into itself. And it's the force that causes people to say things like, what the heck was I thinking when I made that decision? Seemed like a good idea at the time, or wish I would have known then what I know now. And so when stupidity occurs in companies, whether they're large multinational companies or small dental practices, it's a force that can destroy value and bankrupt businesses and frustrate customers and certainly ruin careers. So I came up with a simple definition so people wouldn't get offended by my use of the term corporate or business stupidity. And it's a definition of stupid decision. So put simply, a stupid decision is made by someone who could have known better, chose worse, and caused harm. So those are the three requirements: could have known better, chose worse, caused harm. And it's the kind of stupidity the book is targeting. So I like to apply that definition to different industries. And so what I did in the case of the dentistry industry or the dental industry, I ran across one of your, quote, most popular articles, The 7 Habits of Financially Unsuccessful Dentists.
Absolutely.
Okay? And so I looked at it and I said, okay, financially unsuccessful dentists display one or more of these characteristics. They don't know where their money goes. They don't know where it should go. They don't have a retirement goal. They don't have an annual savings goal. They make large financial decisions on gut instinct. They don't manage their debt properly, or they don't have the right kind or amount of insurance. So I don't know the details. I don't know if these are all generalizations, but for me, it appears there are at least some situations here that involve, let's say, otherwise intelligent people who could have known better, chose worse, and caused harm. So that's the kind of stupidity that's a serious force in our world today. And I guess to use the dental analogy, it's like tooth decay. If you don't practice prevention, one day you're going to have a problem. And no one is immune. That includes the dental industry. If we look at stupidity as the force, mind bugs are the cause. So in my research, I found that humans are hardwired for survival. And that generates built-in non-conscious flaws in our thinking, flaws that are reinforced by the very kinds of survival situations we encounter in business. Now, these flaws go by a wide variety of very technical and scientific names, such as cognitive dissonance. And I found it hard for people to relate to cognitive dissonance, so I refer to the flaws in a more user-friendly fashion, and I came up with the term mind bugs. And the name implies that just like software can have bugs, we humans can have bugs in how we think and make decisions. And the fact is that in today's times, where we have a stressful, time-constrained business environment, that reinforces mind bugs. And when I went out and tested these terms, both corporate stupidity and mind bugs, I found that most people got it right away. So what I did is I took a look in the area of cognitive bias, cognitive dissonance, heuristics, and a whole host of other scientific realms, and screened over 125 candidates based on my own experience, and developed a reference guide that defines 20 mind bugs in simple, user-friendly terms. What I did was, for example, we screened the mind bugs, or I screened the mind bugs versus the 7 habits of financially unsuccessful dentists to see, at least from my perspective, maybe what the top 3 mind bugs might be in this case. So as I looked at this, I saw one in the social dimension called rose-colored glasses. And that's defined as overestimating the likelihood of positive events simply because other dentists have been successful. The second one I saw was in the beliefs dimension. I call it shortcomings denial. That's defined as a dental practice leader underestimating their own shortcomings by not believing they have them or otherwise rationalizing and assuming they can control them. The last I saw was in the sufficiency dimension, the informed leader fallacy. And that's defined as a belief by a dentist that he or she is better informed and has better instincts than others simply because he or she owns the practice and is the leader. So what I find is that most problems are self-inflicted as a result of mind bugs. These bugs in the critical internal processes that occur in the 5 inches between our ears. And the simple fact is, as humans, we are frequently in error, but rarely in doubt. Sure. The way I look at it, there are really 2 ways to do everything. For example, there are 2 ways to express your ideas, and there are 2 ways to listen to the ideas of others. There are 2 ways to correct and 2 ways to take correction. 2 ways to accept help and 2 ways to help others. 2 ways to gather information. 2 ways to process information. I'm either in command of my thoughts or my thoughts are in command of me. When I'm in command of my thoughts, I'm mindful, and when I'm not, I'm mindless. So avoiding mind bugs requires a simple, non-defensive way of asking ourselves simple questions for the purpose of revealing mind bugs. In the book, I describe a number of ways to ask the 2 questions, but here's one. How could mind bugs cause problems with this decision? How could mind bugs cause problems with this meeting? How could mind bugs cause problems with this direction? The second question would be, how will I avoid the mind bugs that cause the problems? So you can ask the 2 questions about anything in life and receive benefits simply because the questions promote mindfulness. That is, being in command of our thinking. So if we go back to the dental example, the 7 habits example, we might suggest to dentists that they ask themselves to begin with, how could mind bugs cause problems with achieving my long-term financial goals? To take a look at that list, pick the top 3 that they think might be in the way, talk to their team, let them pick the top 3, distill out the top 3, and then have a good, solid discussion about how to avoid them. We're simply turning on our conscious attention in advance to become aware of where mind bugs might strike. Consider that at any given second, our 5 senses are taking in more than 11 million pieces of information. And the problem is that people can only consciously process about 40 pieces of information per second. So let me say that again. We take in 11 million pieces of information a second, but can only consciously process 40 of them. So what happens? It would be a shame and a waste if all of that additional information just wasn't used. But our brain has a way to use it. It makes use of this information outside of conscious awareness through the use of non-conscious filters. As a matter of fact, neuroscientists have determined that over 95% of our decisions are non-conscious. For example, that's why we spontaneously hit the brake pedal without thinking when our brain perceives a threat. It's also why we can put our fingers on the keyboard and begin to type, at least most of us, without looking and seeing where the keys are. So this non-conscious filter setup that we have helps us in millions of ways every day. But it can also be a problem. And these non-conscious filters are why some dentists might not perceive the threat of failing to properly plan for their financial future or really otherwise make prudent financial decisions until it's too late.